Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Mastering a Healthy Life at All Ages. My name is Nicole Walker, and I'm the Senior Alumni Manager of Alumni Engagement, and it's my pleasure to be your host today. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting and pay my respect to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Well, happy 50th anniversary to Griffith University. Can you believe it was 50 years ago that the doors opened for the very first classes? It's O Week happening here. There's new students everywhere and the vibe on campus is just amazing at the moment. Throughout this year, we're going to be celebrating and reflecting on the university's history to date, as well as looking forward to the future with the release of our new strategic plan due later in the year. I encourage you to participate as much as you can in this special calendar of events. Today's session is being recorded and a stenographer is providing live captions. To access these, please click on the link posted in the chat. We're really excited to bring you today's webinar for your chance to gain practical, evidence-based advice from a trusted expert who is passionate about helping people thrive in all aspects of life. Our keynote speaker for today is Dr. Cris. Dr. Cris is a GP with RAC GP recognised qualifications in integrative and lifestyle medicine, including a Bachelor of Biomedical Science and a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery from Griffith University. She utilises evidence-informed combinations of conventional and complementary therapies along with lifestyle changes to treat and heal holistically. She was also the health consultant for the Biggest Loser retreat. Dr. Cris has worked closely alongside Griffith University's School of Nutrition and Dietetics by being involved in joint research projects focusing on improving nutrition knowledge and delivery of chronic diseases for GPs. She's currently undertaking a PhD with the Queensland University of Technology, looking into ways to improve mental health illnesses using nutritional supplementation. Welcome, Dr. Cris. All right, I'm going to bring Dr. Cris on screen here with me now. Awesome. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
You're very welcome. So glad to have you here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to ask a few questions first and run through those, and then we'll open it up live to the audience for them to submit their questions as well. But so before we get into that, it would be great, Dr. Cris, if you could tell us about yourself, how you came to Griffith and where you've taken your degree so far.
Yeah, no problem. Well, 50 years. Wow, Griffith Uni's come a long way, hasn't it? So I'm nearly that age, and yeah, I can't believe 50 years can come and go just like that. So, but I guess my journey, I grew up on the Gold Coast. I was born overseas, but came here and went to school here on the Gold Coast, and you know, did a year or so of study interstate, and then came back home, came back to Griffith to finish came back to the promised land here on the Gold Coast where it's warm and my family are, and completed my Bachelor of Biomedical Science here, and was doing cancer research with, I think it's the Glycomics Institute, and so I was doing cancer research along with Monash Uni, looking at some novel things at that time, and that was really great. And then when the medical school announced that they were going to launch a medical program, I decided to apply and follow and pursue that. So I was part of the first cohort through the medical school program, and we graduated in 2008. And that was an amazing experience. I had such a great time with such great people that are, you know, still around, and it's so great to see what everyone's doing and to catch up with people nearly, you know, 20 years on, and yeah, I still can't believe it's been that long. And so yeah, it's been a really great journey. Griffith's been great. My husband went to Griffith. He's a physio, and we share a clinic here in Robina. So he has the physiotherapy rehabilitation side, and I have the medical side. And so, yeah, we treat patients that way. And so from there, I did, I started doing a internship or a registrar training in paediatrics to be a kids doctor, and then transitioned across to general practice seeing the need to really extend my knowledge into the community about health and well-being. I paid my way through uni by being a personal fitness trainer, and so that was always my interest, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and training clients. I was going to say patients, but they were clients back then, training clients. And then after uni, I'd go back to the gym here at the PCYC on Monaco Street, which is still standing, and do it that way. So I wanted to extend that knowledge into the community, and so I did general practice, and then a fellowship in lifestyle medicine, a fellowship in integrative and nutritional medicine, and a few bits and pieces along the way, a few books and things. So, and then became the health consultant for the Biggest Loser retreat, which was very interesting, around a whole different philosophy of health for those individuals in the community that seemingly need it most. And so, yeah, it's been a great journey. So that's me so far. And then 4 years ago, as you do, when I was on maternity leave with my third daughter, decided to embark upon a PhD. And so, because I had so much free time, I thought that'd be a great idea. And so this is my final year of the PhD, and we're looking at biomarkers of medication-resistant depression and the role of nutraceuticals. So in those individuals where medication doesn't seem to work, what else works? Are there any lifestyle things that can work? Are there any nutritional supplementation, that can work? So we're in the final year of that. So yeah, so that's my journey to date.
Wow.
But I believe we have some photos, blast from the past, when you asked me to dig up the archives. I'm not very sentimental, so I didn't have them, but my mum luckily came to the rescue, and she has a little folder, proud little mum moment, and so
awesome.
I dug some of those up. So, and that just
bring those up now.
Cohort, which might be interesting for people, because it was interesting for people at the time, because we were the first cohort through, and it was big for the Gold Coast. I think Bond Uni followed after us, and I think it was a sign of the Gold Coast investing in the health of our community, and really about keeping students here on the Gold Coast. And a lot of us have stayed. So you'll see some faces with the next couple of photos of some of the specialists around the Gold Coast now. That was a newspaper article that they did. And yeah, some of these graduating faces. So in there are obstetricians, radiologists, anaesthetists, a couple of spine surgeons are in there, some emergency department doctors. So, and that's half the cohort. So yeah, you'll see people around, and it's great to see where people have come. And that was, my hard 8 years of study, was a couple of degrees, and but it was so enjoyable along the way. I felt like Griffith did it well, and I've been to 4 different unis, so I felt like Griffith has done it really well. And yeah, that was the graduation, and that was the full cohort. So we were a small cohort then. I believe it's grown since then. I believe it's twice the size. So there were 71 of us that graduated. I believe it's twice the size that it was then. But there we were, all mid-20s and hopeful of changing the world. And I think quite a few people have in that group, so which is great to see. And of course the lovely Dean at the time, and she really empowered women, which was great to see as well. And I believe Griffith does that well as well, and just launching women into the community to be all they're meant to be, and to be the leaders. And that's in my surgery. That's on my wall. It just says, "I love you, Mum." So it reminds me of, why I'm here. It's, to also be that example to the next generation, to my girls. As I said, I've got 3 daughters, and, raising them to be independent and successful, and, great leaders in the community, and empathetic and passionate, and all those things that you want people to be in your world. So that reminds me that the degrees are for that reason, and that reason only, that I keep going and I wake up in the morning. So that was that. And then these were just some articles that were released about my journey into lifestyle medicine post-graduation, and as part of the RACGP, the Royal College of General Practitioners, were interested in my journey into that. And it's only really been recognised in the last few years. We have working parties within the RACGP. They're called specific interest groups, where GPs can really follow their passion into a specific area that they are practicing in regularly, whether it's addiction medicine, kids, women, and there's an integrative medicine specific interest group now. So the RSEGP recognises that there are some of us that have gone on to take an interest and do further research into the evidence-informed practice of combining lifestyle changes, nutraceuticals, alongside standard conventional medical approaches, just to get the best outcome for the patient in, I guess the most holistic means possible. So it's gone on to do that, which I think is really great, that there's somewhere for everyone, basically. And that's kind of been, my journey to date, my career journey to date.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really, it's hard to believe that you've done so much in really there's only a short space of time. So congratulations on everything that you've achieved to date, and we're really grateful to have you here today to learn from you and the multidisciplinary skills that you bring to your patients. So it's a real privilege to have you here today. So we've just got a series of questions that we'll run through, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So the first one is around what are the key health priorities for each stage of life, and how can individuals proactively address them to set themselves up for long-term wellness?
Yeah, that's a big one, and it's always a question that comes up with longevity and wellness, and more and more of us are aware now of health span versus lifespan. So obviously lifespan is how long you live. And in Australia, the average lifespan is about 83. Men a little bit less, women a bit more, but about 83 in Australia. And we have about the sixth highest lifespan out of the countries in the world. I believe Hong Kong has the highest, and then there's France in there, there's Italy, there's Japan, there's a few of the blue zones, which are the populations around the world that seem to live the longest, and there's reasons for that, and they've looked into that from a lifestyle medicine perspective and research. But a lot of us are aware not just of lifespan, but of health span. We don't want to be in disease for the majority of our older years. We don't want to be in that position. We want our lifespan and our health span to be fairly close together. You don't want to spend a long time suffering before that time comes. You want to shorten that gap. Yes, you want to increase your lifespan, and we all want to live a little bit longer and to enjoy our family and enjoy life, and do the things that we always wanted to do and tick off the bucket list. But we want to be able to do them for longer. And our health span at the moment is 12 years younger in Australia, 12 years sooner than our lifespan. So we're sort of dying slowly for about 12 years. We get things like heart disease and dementia and, it sounds awful, osteoporosis and all those things. We're getting those things with about 12 years before the time comes. So they kick in around, if you do live to your full health span, and we all hope and pray we do, kicks in around your 70s. And so that's around the time when we're retiring, because we retire now at 67. Well, that's apparently, the time that we're meant to retire. Many of us like to keep going for as long as we can, because if you don't use it, you lose it. But you get to retirement, and I hear this all the time in the clinic, and that's when my health fell apart. And I think it's because we've pushed it, we've possibly neglected ourselves, and we've gotten to that point, we've finally relaxed, and then things come to the surface that we've neglected or we've pushed aside. So in terms of through the life stages, what would be important is creating habits early, creating those habits, setting those habits in place so that they are completely on autopilot. That really is the key. You can have circuit breakers throughout your life, but if your base is good, if you've always been an exerciser, it really is, it's a lot easier to return to that, especially from a muscle memory point of view. It's a lot easier to go back to that if you were always an exerciser. If there's a huge hiatus between the time that you gave up exercising for kids and career and that sort of thing, and then you've got to return to it, you've got to be mindful that the body will not adapt as quickly, and it's important then to have some instructions so you don't get injured and give up. So around returning to exercise, but creating those habits early is super important. So in your 20s, looking after yourself as much as you can within the fullness of life, and your body recovers quicker. And many of us believe that we can you know, burn the candle at both ends at that age. And you can to some degree, but the body will give. And so putting those good habits in place is important. So the sleep routine, the exercise routine, the you know, work-life balance routine, the diet routine, putting those into place early really helps to set you up for the rest of your life. And then there are some key time points, I would say, Nicole, where it would be important. We all intuitively know this, but to get checked up, and you can pick arbitrary points if you like that help you to remember. You can go, well, every 5 years, I'm going to make sure that I have a really good checkup. As that time gets closer towards our older ages, that interval needs to be shorter. So it's not every 12 years, it's not every 10 years, it's not every 5, it's probably every 2, and then every 12 months, and then maybe every 6 months. So it's important to have those checkups to make sure that you prevent things. If you can catch things early, it's a lot easier. Prevention is a lot better than cure, yes, but early detection is a lot better than later detection. And luckily our technology is amazing, and I'm sure that's going to be a point, but it's coming leaps and bounds. What we will see in the next 20 years is super exciting for all of us in terms of longevity space, in terms of regenerative medicine, spinal cords and things like that, pancreases for type 1 diabetics, corneas, all sorts of things. And I think the AI will really revolutionize. I use it in clinic a lot, and I think AI will really revolutionize where this is headed and detecting things earlier and managing things more personalized and earlier. Yeah. So habits is key. Good habits, which was
Awesome.
the title of my first book, which I wrote nearly, I think, 15 years ago, which was about healthy habits, like doing one a week, bringing that into your life and just having that as part of your everyday.
Yes.
And just
yeah.
Simple things still are that, you know, they seem too simple to be true, but they still work. You know, they still work. We still need sleep. You know, we still need good quality
water.
sleep.
Yep.
We still need water. We still need hydration. We still need sleep. We still need a good diet. And there's a lot of talk about what's the right diet. Is it keto? Is it carnivore? Is it vegan? Is it, you know, is it plant-based? Is it organic? What is the right type of diet? Is it, you know, a lot of the research is around the Mediterranean diet, which is a lot of, you know, green leafy veg, you know, good sources of fatty acids, lots of omega-3. I think there's merit in that for sure. And I think there's definitely merit in that. Yes, there's time and place. I often do a therapeutic keto diet. So if somebody is very insulin resistant, if they've got a lot of weight on, if they are really struggling in the department of sugar cravings, etc., then the keto diet for a period of time can really work well. It's just not often sustainable for people to go on years and years and years to eat no carbohydrates.
Yeah, okay. I think you had the health span versus lifespan slide. We'll bring that up for you just to quickly talk through.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of bring that up for us.
Sure.
There we go. Oh, the books. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Yeah, just the books that have helped me to get the message out there, and people have found them interesting along the way. There's one coming in the next 18 months on longevity, actually. I'm working with a geneticist that's a good colleague of mine, and we put together biomarkers of healthy living and aging, as well as genetic tendencies and epigenetics. And we put all that together for people in our combined clinic, so that they can know where they are at now and where they're headed, and how to mitigate some of those health things that they're predisposed to, as well as those genes that they've switched on, how to switch them off again. And so that's where technology is heading. Which is amazing. It's fantastic. So, but yeah, health span and lifespan. And interestingly, we're not dissimilar to the rest of the world. We're not dissimilar. The average health span lifespan gap is between 9 and 12 years. So we're not that dissimilar. Those that have a shorter health span lifespan gap don't live as long as we do. So places in, you might see a health span, lifespan gap of say 4 years in Sierra Leone, but they only live to their mid-50s. So, so you've got to take that into consideration. So we're not dissimilar from other places. We're not necessarily unhealthier than other places in the world, other Western countries. We're all doing about the same. So that's an important message, I guess, to mention as well, around that. We're not worse off here, but how do we across the board, across the globe, shorten that gap between health span and lifespan? That's what we're all interested in now, in shortening that gap. And there's a few things you can do. And I think I put a table up or a graph up of some things. Health span and lifespan, I mean, this is just something quickly did up and what can influence it. So obviously health span means free from chronic disease or significant physical limitations. We want to be as active as and independent for as long as possible. We want improved quality of life and living, and lifespan is influenced by a few things. Why can't we seem to crack the 100 mark? That's the age-old question. There's been a few. Was it Jean Clement who lived to 122? That's the oldest. She was French and she smoked and drunk until the very last moment of her life. So I'd love to see what her genetics was like. But that's an exception. Most of us can't crack that 100 mark, and many of us, 80s is about the norm. 90s is, wow, they got to 90. We still can't crack that, and we think it's a combo of genetics, our environment, what we're eating, the stress that we're under, and the healthcare access for a lot of people. And we're seeing that in other countries around the world, like the United States and things, where people can't access free healthcare. So there is that component to it. Well, it's not free, it costs us, but universal healthcare, I should call it. And so I guess there is that interplay between the two. I just did the most common things that come up in the research in this bar graph of what the research repeatedly says about what can help improve your health span and lifespan. And the things that currently come up are, the smoking side of things. Still, quite a few of us smoke. About, I think it's still quite high, and certain populations are taking it up with the vaping and things. So it's still quite high, the amount of people that smoke. So you can add 10 years to your life if you stop smoking and avoid smoking altogether. So 10 years, regular exercise up to 7 years. And so that's a big one that most people go, oh, wow, I didn't realize it would make that much difference. The Mediterranean diet, a healthy diet, what does that look like? We can unpack that a bit more. But so 4 to 5 years, strong social connections. Can you believe it is more important than sleep and stress management? And that was the real key in those blue zones, is that they had strong social connections. They were part of church groups, or they were part of strong community groups. Within their communities, they co-opted, they shared, they lived really tight-knit, they looked after their elderly, old people live with them. So the social connections is a huge part of that. And, that's something we're losing with tech. Unfortunately, we're getting a bit further. Yes, we create tech friends, and that's great, but there's something about human touch and human connection of face-to-face that I pray we continue to maintain as more and more robots invade our world. And I mean that virtually, like on the computer, but I think we'll have more and more bots doing things, and I pray we always maintain those social connections, which I think we will, because we're aware of this. And healthy weight 3 years, adequate sleep 2 to 3 years, and then stress management 2 to 3. So you can see if there was none of that in your world, you could probably expect to live 20 years less than somebody that had all of those in your world. So that's an interesting statistic that's just been pulled out of all of that lifestyle medicine research. And I'm sure there's more nuances to it. There's been lots of questions around it. I'm sure not all the studies are perfect, but that's a general guide.
Awesome, thank you. That is really interesting, and it ties in nicely to the next question, because Mediterranean diet and healthy weight were both two of the factors you pointed out there. So nutrition and lifestyle do often change as we age. And what would be your top tips for mastering nutrition in your 20s and 30s and beyond, especially when balancing the busy lives and evolving health needs?
Yeah, I mean, it's about habits once again. The things that creep in, I think, as we get older is less protein. So we generally go for more carbohydrate-based foods. It's just about convenience. We're grabbing the coffee. It's lots and lots of coffee, but we're grabbing the coffee. We're grabbing the convenience foods. We don't have a lot of protein. And as we get older, we do need the protein still. We need it for maintaining muscle along with the weight bearing exercise. We need that protein and less carbohydrates. There's a lot of talk around caloric restriction, intermittent fasting, and the benefits of that for metabolism and maintaining metabolic rate. I think there is merit in that. It's not for everyone. And if you're that person, if you feel terrible doing that versus good doing that, that's when you just know. Once you've gone past the 3 days of the sugar and the caffeine detox, you can then figure out, okay, how do I actually feel? Do I feel quite great and invigorated and lots more energy on this, or do I not? So I think that's when you can kind of tell. But in terms of diet and lifestyle, I mean, there's lots of advice around there, and you kind of go, okay, well, what do I really need to do? It's really about unprocessed. So as unprocessed as possible, as whole food as possible, as fresh as possible. Stay away from too much refined carbohydrates and sugar. That it's in everything, from soft drinks to energy drinks to snack foods to cereals. It's in all the lunch boxes for kids at school. And then we continue that habit into adulthood. And then every meal has got something in it that's refined. So it's stripping it right back to what would our ancestors have eaten. What would our great grandparents have eaten? Would it have looked like this, or would it have been majority of the time fresh, home cooked, unprocessed? Lots of salad, lots of veggies, a little bit of meat. Probably they would have just had a bit of potato. Pasta wasn't really a thing, particularly in our culture, a bit of rice in other cultures. So you kind of look at that and go, does that represent what mum and dad or great grandma and great grandpa would have eaten? No. Okay, how do I change that? How do I get back to it? And there's some great companies out there that do food deliveries these days. There's some great ones around Australia. There's A-Life Plus meals, they're great. There's Macro. What else have I seen? New Foods is not too bad. Lightning is okay. Like there's some really good. If you're really time poor, then you invest in that, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper as the company's getting bigger and bigger, and as the need is getting bigger and bigger. Do you choose organic? Do you not? Yes, if you can afford it. Are the health benefits that much greater? The research is still equivocal around that, so that it's still on the fence as to if it's much greater to eat organic than non. If you can wash your fruit and veg really well for that pesticide content, you do the best you can. You do fresh if you can, and you really try and strip out the refined carbohydrates and sugars, the processed foods, the artificial colors and flavors, things that would not have been in our diet 100 years ago. You do your best to strip them out.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is around stress and sleep, which were also factors on the table.
Yeah.
So it's around, obviously, stress and poor sleep.
Yeah. Well, I'm losing you, Nicole. I don't know if it's my connection.
Our health. So what would be your strategy? Or can you hear me now? Oh.
Yes, yeah, it's sort of coming. I think the good old technology.
Am I back now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I'm being told that I was frozen and in and out. So hopefully,
right.
I'm back. All right. So we're just looking at around stress and poor sleep. What strategies you would recommend to restore biorhythms, improve rest and recovery, and especially for people juggling multiple responsibilities. So trying to turn the brain off, the mind off to go to sleep can often be a struggle.
That's such a huge thing, sleep. And the interesting thing about sleep is, you think you've got to get a full continuous bout of sleep. It's not really about being a continuous amount of 6, 7, 8 hours in one stretch. If you can, throughout that nighttime period, be in bed long enough to allow your body to get what it needs, it will start and stop like a book. So sleep is like reading a book. It will pick up where it left off. And so if you have had broken sleep because you're nursing a newborn, as long as you're in bed for enough time, your body will do all of the sleep stages it needs to do in that period of time, because it will pick up where it left off. So don't feel like it has to be, perfectly solid 7 hours, hit my head on the pillow, wake up the next morning, didn't even blink, didn't even move, must have had a good night's sleep. That's neither here nor there. The problem is we're not in bed long enough. We're not probably resting long enough. We're burning the candle at both ends. We're using the tech. We're probably on our computers or on Netflix or what have you until 10:30. We switch it off. We're trying to get to bed by a certain time to allow ourselves to have 7 hours before we have to wake up. And that is not enough window to do an unwind, rest kind of process. So you kind of got to go, okay, well, is this a priority in my life? Am I struggling? Am I losing health because of poor sleep? Is my cortisol being consistently elevated because I'm not able to rest? Then you have to look at how much time you're actually giving yourself to do the sleep hygiene, the sleep routine, getting in bed and allowing yourself enough time to actually sleep. And that's because that's a discipline. That's really hard, because a lot of us see sleep as an inconvenience or as a luxury. We've got too much to do. And I know, I have 3 kids, I'm packing lunches, I'm doing, uniforms and all that sort of stuff when I get home from work. I know what it's like, and it's very hard to unwind. And I would say try and see what you're doing in terms of the sleep hygiene and the sleep routine at night. If you can, stay away from the screens. At the very minimum, use your blue light filters on the screen so that it's not disrupting melatonin. And try and get the light at the start of the day, because melatonin, as you know, is disrupted by our screens. And many of us are on these for 10 hours a day, between 8 and 10 hours a day, and it's disrupting our melatonin. What helps to boost that is exercise, sunshine, natural light. Even if it's filtered coming through the window, it helps. So natural light exposure, particularly in the morning. Exercise in the morning helps us to sleep better at night time as well. Many of us exercise after work. If you're having sleep problems, it's better to do it in the morning. So morning exercise is better than night exercise if you're having an issue with sleep. Because it will overstimulate you at night time, and your melatonin production will not be optimized as it would be if you exercised in the morning. So you swap your routine around and you use what you need to. So melatonin, vitamin D, there's a few herbs out there that are great at helping to stimulate that melatonin production. So you use those things as you need. Some people supplement with melatonin. More and more children are on melatonin now. They're just not producing the melatonin that they used to for sleep, which is our sleep hormone. It's naturally produced when we're exposed to sunlight. It builds up throughout the day, and then we release it at night time when the sun goes down. So more and more kids are now on melatonin because of all this screen time. So, it is what it is. It's our modern life. Can we try and reverse it and put into place some better habits? I think we're all aware of it, and we're all trying. We're all really trying. Schools are trying. Parents are trying. We're doing our best. But sleep is, it's an issue for a lot of people with the overstimulation. The other thing to keep in mind is caffeine and how long it stays in your system. So you're either a normal metabolizer of caffeine, it stays in your system about 6 to 12 hours, or a slow metabolizer of caffeine, or a fast metabolizer of caffeine. If you're a fast metabolizer, it's in and out of your system 4 to 6 hours. If you're a slow metabolizer of caffeine, it can be up to 24 hours. So if you have a cup of coffee, even if it's not affecting your bladder, even if you feel like it didn't give me much of a kick, it doesn't give me much of a kick, I drink it out of habit, it can still be disrupting your sleep cycle. And you might not realize that the cup of coffee that you had at 6, 7 a.m. is still affecting your sleep if you're a slow metabolizer. And we can do liver enzyme genetic testing now to know if you're a slow metabolizer of caffeine. We can do CYP mutations, SNPs, to see that. So that's something that's easy enough to be done. But so that's important about caffeine. The other side of it is we're often using alcohol to relax us at the end of the day, and alcohol will wake you up in the middle of the night. Once the liver starts detoxing it at about 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, between 1 and 3, it will wake you up. You'll get a blood sugar low, you'll get a detox response, and it will wake you up and you'll have a poor sleep. So over time, alcohol as a neurological suppressant will actually lead to anxiety and will lead to insomnia. So you've got to realize that too and go, okay, you know what? I've got to do a bit of it's very hard, I'm not saying it's not, a coffee alcohol detox and see what your sleep does.
Awesome, thank you. And there's lots of notes there. I'm sure everyone is taking as they're listening. So talking around tech, obviously it has brought some negatives to our health and to our lifestyles, but I guess artificial intelligence is becoming so integrated. As you said, the robots are there. What are some positive ways that people can use AI to help supercharge their personal health? So how can we use those improvements in technology to support us?
Yeah, I mean, technology is great if it's used the right way, and we're using it more and more in clinic. You know, it can take our notes for us, so I can just be face to face with the patient. I don't have to have the interruption of typing. It can type my notes for me, can write out referrals, it can do those things, and I just double check them at the end. So it can help with human connection, and it can help with efficiency of what we do and optimization of our time. From a health perspective, there's some great technologies out there. There's apps. You know, they can real time, your wearables, they can real time monitor your heart rate, your blood pressure, your ECG. They can real time alert you to when there's something wrong. And I think that then allows people to get urgent care quicker than waiting 24 hours till it's too late. So I think that really helps. AI is starting to be able to analyze things and give people ideas around when there's something awry or something needs to be monitored or looked into. So AI is starting to analyze, for instance, scans like MRI scans, different scans, and I think that'll get better and better with time. And that, I think, will pick up things a lot quicker than potentially the human eye looking for it. And so I think that's helpful. We can do the same with blood. So I can run, I've programmed a chat GPT model. I've programmed that, and so I can run someone's bloods through there historically, and they can tell me when there's been a blip that I might have missed, or I might not have realized that has been an issue for 5-6 years because I didn't have those historic bloods. But if I upload them all, it looks for patterns, and I can put in the family history, I can put in their genetics, and it will start to pull those things out and say, do you know what, they've got a family history of cardiovascular disease, they have the genetics for it, and now they've got high cholesterol, they've got some signs that there's some elevated inflammatory markers, high sensitivity CRP is starting to go up. So there's some things that I can go, oh, we better mitigate this now. I know you're only 40, 50, which is when things start to creep up, but we need to have a look at that. And that's the interesting thing. If something's not genetic, if it's purely lifestyle and you've developed it after the age of 60, then it's lifestyle, and we can mitigate that with lifestyle. And so ideally we would have mitigated it earlier, but if it's happened after 60, it's not going to be genetic. But if something's crept in before 60, it's likely to be something genetic that you've got happening, and something's triggered it off. Is it stress? Is it trauma? Is it lifestyle? And at the moment our immune systems are a little bit weird, and we think there's something with the COVID there. So yeah, so there is a potential for AI to pick up things a lot quicker, a lot more comprehensively, and in a lot more labor intensive way. You can press a button and it's available within a couple of minutes, whereas it would take a human 6-7 hours. So I think that's where we harness it. You know, we still have to check it, and it will get better and better, probably be a lot smarter than us soon, but we feel at this point in time we're still needed, and we're still needed for the human connection and to relay that information. I pray I'm still needed in 10 years, but you know, I can relay that information, explain it, and say, look, it's not 100%, I've obviously double checked it, this is the takeaway points from that. But I think the technology is there and we can harness it for our benefit for sure.
Thank you. And obviously many
sorry, Nicole. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's my end or your end, but I missed that one.
Sorry, it's my end again. I'm not sure why. What is happening?
It's technology.
Technology, that's right.
We jinxed it. We jinxed it.
That's right. People often find themselves in desk jobs, short on time,
Yeah.
using all this technology. What are
Yeah.
some small sustainable lifestyle changes that you could recommend to help reverse the effects of a modern desk-bound lifestyle, or minimize the health risks that it can generate for people later in life?
Yeah, I think you just have to mitigate it, getting up regularly, walking, getting up and doing that stretch, that walk, so that you're not just seated. And it's very easy because we can get hyper focused on the task, and it's 3, 4 hours. So every hour, try and get up for 10 minutes, if you can. So get up, go and get a drink from the water cooler, come back down, go to the bathroom every couple of hours, go and get your lunch. So just try and get up. Don't eat it. Don't eat at your desk in front of your computer. Try and do that mindful eating thing where you go outside, you sit at a park bench, or you sit at the lunch table and be in that community and eat, rather than, scoff it down while you're still focusing on work, which is a huge sympathetic driver, and your parasympathetic calming nervous system doesn't have a time to kick in, produce all those gastric juices that we need, pancreatic juices, to actually digest the food. So then it sits in our stomach, we ferment it, we bloat, we feel disgusting. So it's about that mindful eating as well, getting up and walking, coming back to your desk, and finding opportunities. Like, unfortunately, I live near a lake and there's a walking path. So if I can, and when I can, I go downstairs and it's 10 minutes. I'll just do a quick walk, come back. You get a bit of vitamin D, you get a bit of sunshine, get a bit of exercise. So it's just using your opportunistic, opportunities essentially throughout your day is when I guess the important things come in. Yes, you can make huge overhauls, and I really applaud people when they say, I changed my job and I changed my life, and, I'm doing all of this. But for the majority of us, we're not in that position. And so we just have to make it work for what we can. And then, more and more I am bringing in some nutraceuticals to help people. So, if they're low in vitamin D, we top up vitamin D. If they're low in a few other things that can get drained when you've been under stress, zinc being one. A lot of us are quite deficient in our antioxidants. It's not in our food. Yes, we have a higher requirement for it. So selenium, zinc, boron, magnesium, some of the B vitamins, we're quite low in a lot of those. When you do the testing, vitamin D, it's epidemic. We're quite low in vitamin D. So just topping up some of those things, I think, once you have it tested, don't just take it willy-nilly. You can overdose. You can top up with those things to try and optimize your health, to prevent the diseases that those things can cause if they're left to be deficient for too long.
Okay, thank you. And the last question before we go to the live questions is just around preventative health, which you've spoken about. What are some health checks or screenings you would recommend for people in their 30s and 40s and 50s to catch potential issues early?
Yeah, I mean, the standard we all know, and I think that still stands, just an annual blood test, I think, can say a lot, around liver, kidney function, thyroid function, iron, B12, vitamin D, those sorts of things. I often do a few other cardiovascular markers for those that have a family history of cardiovascular disease. I'll do, different inflammatory markers for those that have a family history of chronic disease in whichever capacity, or rheumatological. So we often try and catch things early. That's the key. So an annual blood test is often helpful. This is just screening, because what we're talking about is looking for things before they happen. What I would say is that currently the way the health system is set up is not towards screening, it's towards diagnosis. So you've got to be mindful that things are not often covered by Medicare when you're looking for things before they happen. If you suspect that something's a high risk, or something is going to happen or has happened, Medicare are much more willing to cover it. So our health system has to change as well. We have to be geared a bit more, and we're starting the process of reinventing that and what that looks like, so that the health care system is much more about prevention rather than cure. because prevention is a lot better. It's a lot cheaper than cure. To prevent cancer versus to treat cancer is a whole different story in terms of cost. So, and so an annual blood test, I think, is helpful. Keeping up with your screening checks, mammograms, ultrasounds as they apply, cervical screening for cervical cancer, skin checks, super important. Skin cancer can happen at any age, but obviously is more common, occurs more commonly as we age. So skin checks, prostate checks, all those things that are applicable to you and as different stages, and be guided by your general practitioner. We're really good at this. This is something we're good at. We are good at managing health throughout the lifespan. I guess I do things a little bit more broadly, but all GPs, we're really good at this part. And so going to your local GP once a year and just saying, I just want to make sure I'm still healthy. And there's new tech coming out. There is a couple of companies now doing full body MRIs. For better or for worse, I think that will be the new technology where you'll have your whole body scanned and it will pick up every couple of years what's going on. So for a few patients that can afford the $3,000 that it costs to get your full body scan for cancer screening and detection, because none of it's covered by Medicare, I think for high risk individuals that are anxious or concerned or just want to make sure, I think that's quite helpful. But for the rest of us, keeping on top of your annual checks, I think is super helpful. So if it's been 5, 6, 10 years since you've had that done, it's time to do that.
Thank you. So we're just going to we've just got about 10 minutes now to go through some of the questions that have been coming through from the audience. So the first one here, and just to our audience, you can please keep submitting questions if you would like, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. So the first question is, I'm delighted to hear your advice on improving fitness as we get older. I've just returned to the gym, but can you give any advice in those menopause years as I'm fighting a losing battle in stomach area despite really limiting calories?
Yeah, that is frustrating. The body does change when we drop our estrogen level, and it does morph. Our female body does morph to more the androgenic pattern. So we'll gain weight less around our hips and more around our stomach. So we become more apple-shaped instead of pear-shaped, and that increases our risk, obviously, of heart disease. And so it is hard. I understand that. Resistance training is key. So maintaining your muscle mass and slowly building that back up is super important. So protein, enough protein in your diet, at least 1 gram per kilogram that you weigh of protein in your diet. So protein usually with every meal, and resistance training, and fairly regularly. They've done research as to how much do you need to do, just more than you're doing, more than you're doing, because the body needs to adapt all the time and it gets used to what you're doing. So then, I often have, for instance, patients who are builders or painters, or they do heavy labor, and some of them do struggle with their weight. And they say, how can that be when I'm exercising all day? And I guess, from the research says it's because your body has adapted to that. You now need to stress the body. You need it to adapt to something that's challenging. So you often have to get stronger weights. You can't stick on the same weight all the time. You have to increase it slowly, depending on, your baseline and where you started. If you need instruction around the right technique so you don't get injured, do see a physio or exercise physiologist. Get that technique right so you don't get low back pain, a herniated disc, and then you can't exercise for 6 months. Like, it's very frustrating when that happens. Or you get the frozen shoulder, because that happens around menopause. It's one of the first signs that your estrogen's dropped, is you'll get your frozen shoulders. And so it's important to kind of mitigate that with your team. You get your team around you, you get the right instruction, you put it into place. It's great that person's returned to exercise. I think it's important at any stage. I think that's really important. But if you can maintain your muscle mass, that helps to burn that excess body fat, because for every kilogram of muscle that you have, it burns an extra 100 calories at rest. So if somebody's next to you and they're the same weight as you, but they have 10 kilograms more muscle than you, then that's what, 1,000, no, more than that, isn't it? 10 kilograms more, no, 1,000 calories more that they can burn. So they could probably twice as much as you and not gain weight. And that's why your husband or your partner is a lot more muscly than you, or has more muscle mass, loses weight by just changing their diet and their lifestyle like that. And it's super frustrating. They have more metabolically active tissue than you do. And so building up that muscle mass is super important for everything, for bones, for metabolism, for the middle age spread, as we like to call it, trying to avoid that, which we'll all get if we're not careful. Yeah.
Thank you. The next one, you spoke briefly to it, but it was around, can you please list a few AI tools you would recommend? So I guess that's probably more for that an individual could use themselves to help manage their health or improve their health.
I mean, it depends which ones you want to do. You know, there's some great just fitness apps, and they're not AI specific. They're just fitness apps. There's some more technical ones like Self-Decode analyzes your blood tests. You can just upload as a PDF your bloods in the last however many months, and it will pick out trends, and it'll pick out things that you need to be aware of. It'll pick things before they've even happened. So Self-Decode's one. Fitness Tracker. There's a few that will preempt beforehand, and there's ones that are connected to wearables. So there's Apple have some great ones, and they've got AI integrated into that all the time. They're integrating AI all the time into that. Aura Ring, Whoop, Garmin, they all are starting to use this technology. As you wear the technology, it starts to put together a story about your health and give you alarms as to when something's not right, which I think is often helpful for things like cardiovascular disease, particularly, which is still our number 1 killer, by the way. Dementia in Australia is number 2, which is a bit sad. Never used to be, but dementia is number 2 now. Yeah, we're getting incidents of.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, there's a lot of emerging evidence on the impact of alcohol on our health, especially for women. What is your advice?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what constitutes heavy alcohol consumption, there's varying rules around how much you can drink before it impacts your health. The research suggests that the only alcohol that has some health benefit, because everyone that knows about alcohol and enjoys alcohol knows that there has been some health benefits attributed to alcohol. That's only red wine. It's the resveratrol, which you can actually take as a tablet, which I often recommend. The resveratrol, the pigment, it's high in antioxidants, but it's the red wine. Any other doesn't have the health benefits associated with it, so it's the red wine, and it's no more than moderate consumption gives those health benefits. What's moderate? The research is mixed, but they say no more than 100 mils a day for women, and ideally 2 alcohol-free days a week, and ideally they're consecutive to give your liver a bit of a break, and no more than 200 mils for men, ideally no more than 5 days a week. And so a lot of Australians, we do a lot more than that. We do 2 times that. So we'll go through, a couple of bottles of wine a week. And so there's more around that. The alcohol story, I don't think, is finished. I think more and more research will come around that and when's a good time not to have it, etc. But I would say if you're struggling with excess weight, with hormone issues like hot flushes, with sleep issues, I would say it's time to give it a break. And with things like fatty liver, I see that a lot with elevated unexplained liver markers, even though, you're not an alcoholic by any stretch of the imagination, but things don't make sense on blood testing or on your symptoms. I would say it's time to give your liver a break, detox it out, and see how you feel. Give yourself at least four weeks. So do Feb fast, dry July, do whatever you need to do, rally around those people around you, because it's more social and it's a habit, and it's one of those things that are hard to break when you're in social circles that rely on alcohol to socialize a lot. And so it's around creating a different culture for yourself to reduce it down. So yeah, I think watch this space with alcohol for sure.
Awesome, thank you. There's a question here just around, you mentioned around the increase, or that dementia is now the second cause of deaths. What is there? Is the research, or I guess what's causing that? Is there something people should be doing to try and minimise their risks?
They're calling dementia the type 3 diabetes. So they're saying that it's linked to high insulin levels, that insulin resistance, the metabolic syndrome, and that it's the type 3 diabetes wave that we're experiencing. It's going to our brain. Glucose is quite neurotoxic. So it's looking around that. Yes, our environment's not the best. There's toxins everywhere, and we hope and pray that our first line of defense, which is our antioxidant defenses, are there to protect us, which is, our liver produces glutathione from the food we eat. Glutathione is one of our major antioxidants that helps to neutralize free radicals from stress, from poor diet, from environmental toxin exposure. And a lot of us are glutathione deficient because those things in our environment overwhelm our body's natural production. Those that are genetically very lucky in that they are able to produce enough of that glutathione do well. But those of us that are pro-inflammation, we have a lot of inflammatory genes, and there's a lot of pathways that are linked. There's BDNF and NF-kappa B and interleukin genes and superoxide dismutase genes and catalase genes. There's a lot of genes that are linked, and a lot of the time we inherit a lot of them together. And if you have those pro-inflammatory genes, you'll be more prone to develop those pro-inflammatory diseases, heart disease, dementia, metabolic type things. And so keeping your insulin levels down, keeping your cortisol levels down, once again, it comes back to diet, lifestyle, exercise, stress, alcohol, smoking. It comes back to all of that. If you feel that you are genetically more prone, and you'll know that from your family history, that mum and dad will be on blood pressure, cholesterol medication. One of them will have type 2 diabetes. They'll gain weight, or from their 30s, they gain weight around the middle, or you have. If you know, genetically I fit, and there's 60% of us do fit in that category. If you know that you fit into that category, you need to do something now before it kicks on. Have your insulin levels tested. So fasting insulin, HbA1c, it is covered by the government. Have those tested. If your insulin is higher than 7, you've got some insulin resistance. You need to work on that, whether it's through changing your diet, taking out refined carbohydrates and sugars, increasing your exercise resistance training. Yes, cardio, if you can tolerate it. After a certain age, too much cardio can put an extra strain on the body, so you've got to be mindful of that. It can disrupt particularly female hormones a lot, so you've got to be mindful of just killing yourself at the gym. It's the right type of exercise. That's where a health professional can really help that understands it. And watch your alcohol consumption, because alcohol is a sugar. And so it spikes your insulin because it's just a sugar, it's ethanol. And so being mindful of all those things can help unwind that insulin resistance. And then if the body's still stuck, then we have tricks up our sleeve. Yes, there's some nutraceuticals that help, berberine, chromium. Yes, those can help. But if not, we do have medication if we had to, and that's the Ozempics, the semaglutides. We have them and we can use them now, and the TGA have approved certain ones for this particular insulin resistance problem, and that's obviously Mounjaro and Wegovy. So there are things we can do to mitigate so that you don't end up with the type 3 diabetes, the dementia risk, or you significantly reduce that, because it is happening for whatever reason earlier.
Okay, thank you. We just got our last question that we've got time for. There was plenty more questions here. But it's around just a different one we haven't touched on, I guess, is around suggestions for a healthy mid-afternoon snack from Rob. So a normal healthy option like an apple doesn't seem that appetizing at that time of the day. So do you have any other suggestions for people?
Yeah, I guess the apple's not a bad suggestion, but it's low GI, but it's carbohydrate, and so it will make you crave a bit more sugar. What happens at around that 2 o'clock as well is we get a slump in cortisol, and so if you're already tired, or if your cortisol reserves started really low in the morning, you'll crave sugar at that time. So we crave our third coffee for the day normally at that time, and we crave sugar. And that's when you've probably got a little bit of adrenal insufficiency. So we need to work on your energy reserves so that you don't get that slump. The body doesn't detect it as a threat to alertness. It's trying to make you sleep at that time, but you can't sleep your environment says I can't sleep, so I have to go and do a pick-me-up. And so the better pick-me-up at that time is not the extra cup of coffee, which may disturb your sleep. It is something with protein in it. So either a protein ball, a protein shake, some hummus with, I know that doesn't sound appetizing for a lot of people, but it does to me, hummus with carrot sticks, some nuts. Go for something with protein, because it will, one, mitigate then being starving when you get home, so that you don't just raid the fridge before dinner's ready and grab the glass of wine and the cheese board and all of that sort of stuff that can happen as soon as you hit the door, or whatever's in the fridge. If there's leftovers, it will help mitigate some of that, so that you can make better choices come the evening meal, which ideally, when you look at cultures that have it right, their evening meal is the lightest meal of the day, not the heaviest meal of the day. Their lunch is the heaviest meal of the day, and they take 2 hours to eat it. They eat it slowly. They eat it with people. They have a little siesta in the afternoon, and dinner is their lowest. This is their smallest meal of the day. They don't go to bed with a belly full of food that then just gets stored instead of burned off. So we've got it round the wrong way because of the way our lifestyles work and our work schedules. So you've got to kind of trick yourself into believing that you live in France or in Spain or somewhere much more exotic. But yeah, so I guess you've got to work around that. But protein, choose something with protein.
All right, awesome. Thank you. We're right on time. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Cris. I think, we've had really great response, lots of questions coming through, lots of appreciative comments as well for all the information that you've been able to share. As I said, the session has been recorded today, so I think many people might want to come back and watch it, depending how quick everyone was with taking their notes. But yeah, so thank you again, Dr. Cris. That was just wonderful to hear from you.
People can reach out to if they've got questions. It's drcris@drcris.com.au is my email address. If they do have other things that come to mind and they just want to, get a bit of advice or point people in the right direction, feel free.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so we've got our next webinar booked for the year, which is great. So that will take place on the 3rd of April with Claire Bartholomew, focusing on psychosocial risk, what each employee needs to know. So that's a not to be missed session around to help you understand your rights and obligations under the new legislation that came into effect in Australia last year. So you'll receive emails, invites soon for that one. And then to finish up today, we've just got a 50th anniversary video to share with you. A bit of a glimpse into the archives to see what life used to be like back in the 70s. And just a reminder, there is a full calendar of events happening this year. There's merchandise to buy. There's a new history book. Well, we encourage, please share your stories and photos and videos to the Griffith Archive. We'd love to make that a living digital space where we can all share and check out the fashion and see what's changed and what's still the same over the years. So thank you very much. Thank you to you, Dr. Cris, and Kai will put that video up for us now. So thank you all very much for today.
I can distinctly remember that first afternoon of arriving, walking through the door, and there was a buzz and an excitement about it. We were all curious. I think that's what I remember particularly.
I can still remember the ring road around the Nathan campus, the original humanities building and the library, the motorbike parking area.
Everybody who was a student was there because they wanted to be, not because it was their default option. And I think that made a huge difference in the camaraderie that you had between all of the different schools.
We'd do things like Friday afternoons, you'd be walking through the forest at Nathan and you'd be doing transects in ecology. So we were actually using the area where we were studying, and that was interesting.
My car broke down on the Southeast Freeway in pouring rain, clean the windscreen, get back in, go to uni. And then I met someone on that first day. It was one of those bonding things. We were standing in the line to do something for student cards. We just immediately bonded because neither of us had any idea what we were doing.
Lots of friendships were made, lots of close alliances with people who had a lot of common ideas. They thought a little bit out of the box. They wanted to do something different. They weren't afraid just to try something new.
Griffith was a very social place, very egalitarian. You couldn't be bored. If you were into bushwalking or you were into politics, women's group, there were all sorts of environmental groups as well. The Casbah was fabulous, and societies would take over this demountable building on a Friday afternoon.
You got a lot of interaction between the disciplines, socially and as well as that kind of intellectually, with people sitting around in the reading pit, swapping stories, having a yarn and going to parties as well, of course.
When you think of having to establish student unions, having to establish societies, groups, accommodate all the spawning of people's intellect in ways they wanted to sort of go.
So you had humanities, environmental studies, which was a new course for Australia really, and Asian studies, again a new course, and you had science.
So I started in modern Asian studies, and it was a second year of students. I loved that degree so much. It was just wonderful. My world opened up. So Professor McCarris and others would come and sit with us and talk with us. We were able to ask questions that we mightn't have wanted to ask in class, ask them their opinions of things, and in that way we were able to learn even broadly beyond what we'd been formally taught.
So we were going to something that really was right on the edge. And I suppose right through the first years, it was like that. It was exciting. You were a pioneer and you felt like a pioneer. It was like everything was a new discovery.